For he made Jesus, who knew no sin, to be sin for us, that we might become the righteousness of God in him. Hello, my name is Fitz Criddle, and welcome to Bible Study Screencast. You're watching episode number 11, The Holiness of Jesus. In today's episode, we're going to take a close look at the holiness of Jesus Christ. The Bible clearly declares that Jesus led a completely holy life. So let's take a look at the scriptures to see what it says regarding the holiness of Jesus. And we'll start by taking a look at Hebrews chapter 4, verse 15. And it reads, "For we do not have a high priest who is unable to sympathize with our weaknesses, but we have one who has been tempted in every way, just as we are, yet without sin." Let's take a deeper look at a few words in this verse. The word tempted, without, and sin. Tempted is the Greek word periazo, and it means to try, attempt, to try to trap. The American Heritage Dictionary describes tempted as to try to get someone to do wrong, to be inviting or attractive to. Now we see this being played out in the life of Jesus in Matthew chapter 4, where the Spirit led him into the desert to be tempted by the devil. So Satan tempted Jesus to do evil, to try to get him to do wrong, just as we are tempted today. But there is a distinct difference between how Jesus handles temptation and how we handle it. The word without in this verse is the Greek word choris, and it means apart from, separately from, or independent from. This word describes a marker of disassociation from. And the word sin is the Greek word hamartia, and it means being evil or guilt. Jesus handled temptation without being influenced by a sinful nature because he is disassociated, apart, and separate from sin. I have heard it stated that if Jesus was tempted by sin, then he must have had a choice to sin, because you only have a choice when there's more than one option. The temptation of Jesus is properly defined as external forces trying to coerce him to sin or to commit evil. When we see Jesus being tempted by Satan, there is no internal struggle within him. We can't say that. Every day we face temptation with the influence of a sinful nature. We are faced with a choice at every moment. There is a constant war raging in all of us. Good versus evil, holiness versus wickedness. Because sin was separate from Christ, there was no battle in his soul. Holiness was always the choice for him. The word tempted also means to be inviting or attractive to. And if we are honest with ourselves, we take our church face off. Sin for us at times is inviting and attractive, but not so for Jesus. Hebrews chapter 1 verse 9 says, "You have loved righteousness and hated wickedness." We discussed the fact that Satan tried to tempt Jesus. Well, so did the religious establishment of the time, particularly the Pharisees. Let's see how Jesus responded to them in John chapter 8 verse 46. He says, "Can any of you prove me guilty of sin?" No, of course they couldn't, because he was never guilty of sin. Let's look at a few more examples in the scriptures. 1 Peter chapter 2 verse 21 verse 22 says, "For to this you were called, because Christ also suffered for us, leaving us an example that you should follow his steps." Verse 22, "Who committed no sin, nor was deceit found in his mouth." 1 John 3:5 says, "In him there is no sin." One of my favorite scriptures is Hebrews chapter 7 verse 26. "For it is indeed fitting that we should have such a high priest, holy, innocent, unstained, separate from sinners, and exalted above the heavens." I would memorize that one. At the beginning of this episode, I quoted 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 21, which says, "For he made him who knew no sin to be sin for us, that we might become the righteousness of God." Jesus never knew sin. Let's take a deeper look at that word, knew. It is the Greek word gnosko, and it means to come to know, to experience, to feel, or to allow. This word also refers to intimacy between a man and a woman. So for example, in Genesis we read where Adam knew his wife Eve and bare a son. So this word also is in reference to intimacy. Jesus never came to know sin. He never knew sin. He never to allow sin. He never had a personal or intimate experience with sin until he went to the cross. Here's what's so miraculous. The one who never knew sin, never experienced sin, took on our sin and then placed on us his holiness. The holiness of Jesus Christ has been accredited to every believer. We read that in 2 Corinthians 5, verse 21. He became sin for us so that we might become righteous. That is incredible. I mean, do you hear what I'm saying? Do you hear the words that are coming out of my mouth? God took the sin of the world and imputed or attributed it to Jesus Christ on the cross. Then he takes the holiness of Jesus and imputes that to every believer. That, my brothers and sisters, is amazing grace. Based on the merit of Jesus Christ, the believer has been declared righteous. Once you become a born-again Christian, at that moment, you are declared holy. If you sincerely believe in Jesus Christ as your personal Lord and Savior, positionally, you have been made holy. Now, being declared holy through Jesus Christ's sacrifice is not a blank check to do whatever you want. Hebrews 12 and 14 says, "Pursue peace with all people," or men if you're in the King James Version, "and holiness, without which no one will see the Lord." 1 Peter 1:16 says, "Be holy, for I am holy." Now that creates an interesting question. If I have been declared holy, why then do I have to pursue holiness? How can I be what I already am? Why can't I do whatever I want if positionally I've been made holy? I'm glad you asked that question, because that's what we'll discuss in the next episode of the Bible Study Screencast. Well, that's all I have time for now. If you find this format to be a blessing, then please take the time to subscribe to this particular YouTube channel. God bless you. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll see you next time here on Bible Study Screencast.